Hey, what's up, fam? So it's Blkhippiee here, and today what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about overcoming fear of your own pet snake. If you're interested in hearing my top 5 ways on overcoming your fear of your own pet snake, tap in. It sounds silly on the face of itself, right? Like, in the sense of like, oh man, like who would buy a snake and then be afraid of it? Well, believe it or not, that happens quite more often than not. It's like you got your snake, right? Or before you got your snake, you were at the pet store, right? And you're handling it at the pet store, and it's not hissing at you, it's not biting you, it's not doing any of those things. But as soon as you go home, right? Let's say you go home, you set their enclosure all up, and then you feed them. You do all that. You don't touch them for 2 weeks, right? So now is the part where you're now gonna introduce like handling them, or you're gonna start handling them, and it's like at that point like where things can go a little bit different. And not to scare you, but that's just the reality of it, right? So this first tip is just to realize that your snake is not trying to bite you. Your snake's not trying to hurt you or kill you. Non-venomous snake. It's not trying to hurt you, it's just afraid. And so you have to do is you have to figure out a way to, make your snake not afraid. That's literally the game here, right? The Kiki here, great snake, right? Like you can see her, she's super tame, right? She does not love me, all right? It's not like love in that type of way. She's comfortable with me. And I think that's, at the end of the day, all you're trying to do with your snake, right, is make them comfortable with you. Number 2, right? Number 2, the second tip I have is constant handling, right? So you gotta be consistent with handling. So if you're like, you handle your snake like once a month, once every couple months, you do run risk of them kind of relapsing into a defensive posture. Even with a snake like Kiki, if I just throw her in a room, right, and I don't interact with her for months or years, there's a good chance that she could be more defensive, and so that's literally just the name of the game, right? It's just making them more comfortable with you. Consistent handling is a great way, and what I mean by consistent handling is like literally setting like times to handle your snake, right? So for me, I like to handle my snakes like after work, and so when I'm just like kind of chilling when I'm chilling and I'm like watching TV, it's a great chance or a great time for me to bring them out because I'm relaxed and it's just like cool to kind of just hang out with them at that point. And that's just for me. What works for you is going to be different than what works for other people, and so that's kind of the main point, trying to go with that. So yeah, constant handling doesn't necessarily have to mean like literally constant handling to this point, right? What it could be is that maybe while your snake is in its enclosure, you're just like gently petting them, right? You're touching them, you're getting them kind of comfortable with your contact. That's a great tool or a great way. It's one of the things I did. And another thing you can do too is like wear gloves. You can wear gloves, and gloves will kind of just give you that comfort that like if you were to get bit, that like obviously it's not gonna make skin contact. I did wear gloves once with my ball python, believe it or not. That's a long story, but my ball python was very defensive at first, and he is a lot better now. But that was the first snake in my collection, and so literally I brought him home. He was chill, and like about 2 weeks later, he was crazy. Or not crazy, but he was super defensive, and I was not expecting that because I never had a defensive ball python before. I had a ball python in college, and in college, like my ball python was like super chill. It wasn't, tripping out like that. So for me, it was like, that was like really scary and weird. Long story short, I studied and did a lot of research as to how to tame a snake. And so that's why I'm giving you guys my tips today. Kind of going back to what I was saying before, my example with that is how I tamed Bubba. That's my ball python. So how I was able to tame my ball python who was defensive was constant handling. And so what I would do is I would, just to make myself feel comfortable, I would wear gloves, I would wear like long, like jackets or like crew necks, long sleeve shirts, whatever, just to make me feel comfortable. I'm absolutely comfortable holding my snakes today. I'm only wearing this because it's kind of cold outside, but you know, it just makes you feel more comfortable. And at the end of the day, that's all you're trying to do, is make yourself feel comfortable and also make your animal feel comfortable at the same time, right? All right, so number 3, right? So we just went over number 2, right? Number 2 was constant handling, all right? Number 3 is remaining in control. And what I mean by that is, like, say, like, you know, your snake took a crap, right? Or, you know, there's urates in your tank or poop, and you're trying to clean it out, but you're dealing with the defensive snake, right? So there's a couple of things you can do. You can use a snake hook, right? Or you can just scoop them. I just scoop my snakes. So scooping them up, what I mean by that is, like, I'm not putting my hand on top of their head. You never want to do that per se. So I literally, when they're in a little ball or they're like kind of curled up, I'll literally go behind them and just scoop them up. And that's just the easiest way to pick them up, me personally. But if you're afraid to do that and you're not ready for that just yet, you can use a hook, right? So you can use a snake hook, which you can buy online. You can go to a pet store and buy it, you know. So those mechanisms or those tools can easily help you as well. But what I mean by remaining in control is, like, once your snake is out of the enclosure, and let's just say that, like, you're dealing, let's say like your snake, like, you know, freaks out and spasms, you know, like tries to crawl up your neck because it's freaked out, whatever, right? You gotta remain calm. That's just the nature of the game. You gotta remain calm. If you freak out and you panic, well, you know, that's a recipe for disaster, right? Like, you know, you're panicking and then you have a snake that's, I don't know, not the wild, but you have a snake that you probably just dropped, right? Or, you know, now it's roaming free and now you're afraid to probably pick it up. So what I mean by being in control is literally what I'm doing right now. Like, I'm in control, but I'm not like maneuvering her. I'm not bending her or like stretching her out. I'm letting her do her thing, but I'm still in control of her, right? So it's kind of, you know, movements underneath. Easy to freak out if they're hissing at you, or say they just struck at you, right? They just try to bite you. Let's just say that. You know, it's so easy to freak out and to just like drop them, or to, you know, I don't know, like whatever. It's I can imagine how your mind can go down that hole, but the key here is to remain calm. All right, so remain in control, and what I'm really trying to say here is just kind of be like the warm tree. You know, let your snake, you know, especially when you're trying to tame them, right? You're in that process of taming them. You don't want to do too much. You want to let them kind of just explore and just do their thing, which Kiki here is a master of. She's very comfortable with me, so this isn't an issue. But like when you know, you're trying to tame your snake, whatever, you just want to make sure, you know, that you're just giving them, you know, that space to kind of do their thing. Number four, so chill out. What I mean by that is, it's like just a chill. Like, I think a lot of times, you know, our imaginations run wild, and it's easy to think the worst, right? It's like your brain will kind of fill in the bubble, or your brain will fill in the blank. Like, you know, you didn't really see what happened, let's just say that, and your snake like made a quick movement, and then it's just automatically you think that your snake tried to bite you, when in reality it didn't try to bite you. It was just trying to maybe like regain its grip, right? It was like slipping, or maybe you kind of startled it because you made a quick movement. These things do happen, and your snake is not trying to kill you, is my point. Like, it's just normal. It's okay. Take a breather, take a deep breath, relax, you know, and it's gonna be okay. Look it's gonna be okay. I promise you. If you do it the right way, you won't get bit. I promise you. You shouldn't get bit, you know, honestly. Best example I can really give you is, like, remember when you first started driving a car, right? When you first started driving, it's scary. It's super scary. But the more you do it, right, like the more you get comfortable with it, and the more it's less scary. And it's the same thing with snakes, right? The more you handle them, the more you kind of get used to their body movements, the more you're going to be comfortable with it. Same thing, right? Like, I just learned how to drive stick, like a manual car, stick shift. I just learned how to drive stick shift about like 2 years ago, roughly 2.5, 3 years ago. Never drove stick in my life, but I'll tell you what, when you learn something like that, like off the cuff, like, it's hard, but you know, confidence is everything. And so with this, you got to be confident and just go for it, you know. And the best thing I can really say is, like, if you've driven a car, you drive, that's kind of like the easiest description, or the easiest example I can really give you as to, like, you know, how you can also get over your fear of snakes, right? And driving is way more deadlier than holding one of these guys. These guys are not going to kill you. You know, I don't think there's any report, especially like a boa constrictor imperator, like killing somebody. I don't think that's happened before. But yeah, so my point is you're going to be okay, right? Like we're not dealing with like poisonous snakes or anything like that. So these are docile, captive bred animals, right? So you're going to be fine. A lot of times it's easy to freak yourself out. So don't freak yourself out. I think a lot of times we just overthink. And so avoid overthinking, calm down, chill out, right? Whatever you have to do, chill out. I remember when I was first like taming my snakes, I would watch Netflix. I'd watch like TV shows. I'd watch like I watch basketball. I'd watch football, something like that, just to take my mind off of the actual activity per se. Or to take my nerves off of the activity, and it made it way easier, honestly. And so you just, you definitely get used to it. Cool. So the last one, number five, if I can get my hand free. So number 5, the 5th tip, or the 5th way to kind of get over your fear of snakes, or your fear of your own pet snake per se, is to celebrate the small victories. What I mean by that is like, take your time. Like, don't rush it, don't force it, don't feel bad. You know what, like you just had your snake for maybe a couple months. Don't feel bad that it's still hissing at you. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, each snake is kind of an individual, and they're gonna get comfortable on their own time schedule, and you gotta be patient, and you gotta understand that, So I think that if you understand that and you're chill, just be patient, it's gonna work out. Your snake will be fine. If you do all those steps we talked about, right, your snake will definitely be just as tame as Kiki here. And Kiki was like cool from the jump, but if I was stressing her out and not handling her correctly, she definitely would have bit me before, you know what I'm saying? So it's just one of those things that, like, with practice, you'll get better. When we talked about driving, it's the same kind of thing with driving. And trust me, driving is way scarier than handling a non-venomous, a non-venomous snake that can't even like hurt you, really. You know what I'm saying? Like, their teeth, even when she's full grown, a full-grown boa imperator, can only do so much. Like, I've seen people get bit by like 9-foot, 10-foot boas, and they're totally fine. It looks like a little cat scratch. So boas specifically, these dudes aren't that bad. Like, they're big and they can be kind of scary looking in that way, but I mean, they're not bad. They're not gonna cause like that. They're not gonna cause like any damage to that degree. There's other snakes that can, for sure. And those are more advanced. So like, if you're dealing with an advanced snake and you're afraid, I think you may need to kind of not jump to advanced snakes and maybe try a boa before you try to go to the larger snakes, But yeah, dude, I hope this like helps you guys. If you have any questions or any comments, put them in the comments, obviously. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe, get more content, get to see my snakes grow, right? And what else? Last tip. This is random, but when you're handling your snake, another cool tip is to like so you're handling them is to gently pet their head. So if you gently like pet their heads, top their heads, this helps kind of the taming process. It helps them not be head shy. And so you saw earlier today, that's something I always kind of work on with my snakes. But like, I accidentally kind of like my hand like hit Kiki's head, and she kind of like freaked out, like, and so like head shyness like is a real thing. And so just to make it easier for you, just kind of petting their heads makes a little bit, calms them down. So it's another way to kind of like tame them, right? And another thing too, I might add, is making them feel as less stressed out as possible. So a lot of times I find people will complain about their snake being like aggressive, quotes, defensive really. And the problem is their enclosures is so open. So I feel, I say this like all my videos really, especially talking about defensiveness, is blacking out your enclosure. So if you black out your enclosure, well, so if you black out your enclosure and add a background, right? So my sides are blacked out, right? And I have a background, right? So you see the background. On these enclosures, all my enclosures have that same setup, and it calms your sink down. That way they're not, you know, they're not they're not in defense all the time. So I pulled them out of their enclosure, they felt comfortable, they felt hidden the whole day. Now when I take them out, they're not so like on edge, versus if they feel open and vulnerable all day, and then now you're trying to take them out. Like, I mean, you're setting yourself up for failure in that way. So I highly recommend blacking out your sides and adding a background. I think that will definitely help quicken the tinning process. So that's something that I did personally, and ever since then, every time I get a new snake, I do that, and it works just fine. And so here is Kiki one last time before we go. So you guys got our top 5 ways to not fear your pet snake. Hopefully those tips help you. And if you have any questions, like I said, you know, drop in the comments below, you know. And yeah, I mean, like, each snake is an individual, but at the end of the day, I think if you do these steps, or if you take these tips into action, I feel like, you know, you'll definitely be fine. All right, fam, until next time, Blkhippiee out. Peace.